Hey guys, I'm Rich from NeoWin, and today we're unboxing the LG V40 ThinQ. So this is LG's newest flagship, and it has 5 cameras on it, 2 on the front and 3 on the back. So it's kind of the first of its kind, which is not something that's new for the V series, right? Because remember the original LG V10, that was the first, well, at least one of the first phones to have 2 front cameras, and that was cool because it was a standard camera and a wide-angle camera, and then it has a single lens back. And then I have the V20 here, and there's a reason I have the V20 with me today. But that ditched the dual front camera in favor of dual rear camera. So the V series was originally known for its second display, and that's what you can see up here. And really, I look at it as the first notched phone, because it had a notch right here in the corner, and then you had a little extra piece of the display here because it's really all one panel, and you had a little extra piece of the display there, which was useful. You could add shortcuts, you could control media. It was useful. So now at some point companies have decided that the better way for a notch is to have it right smack in the middle of the display, so that you can't do anything meaningful with the corner notches. LG has adopted this as well. I've tried to find out why, because I feel like this was kind of the right idea. And we can see this because I also have the LG G7 here, and that's where the notch kind of went, but you could hide the notch, as you can see. But I don't hate notches in general. I like the idea of, why should these notification badges and my battery status, why should that take up my real screen real estate that I actually care about? So the LG V40 does have a notch, and it's worth talking about because I also have the V30 here. This does not have a notch. So LG has changed up its design strategy quite a few times over the last few years. All right, so let's get this open. You got a nice LG cloth here. Okay, pentacamera is what they're calling it, which means 5 cameras. And we can see what else is in here. They did ask me my preferred carrier for this when they sent it to me. I wouldn't have expected that they were going to send me a SIM card. Here's some paperwork here, a SIM pin that it comes with. All right, LG V40 start guide. We're not going to go into that because, I mean, hey, we know how to use phones at this point. And then, of course, we have a USB Type-A power adapter and then a Type-A to Type-C cable inside. And I always look at that. I wish more companies would just include a Type-C power adapter, because I feel like that's where we're at, but that's okay. Or on the back, we have a little piece of paper here. Our promise: congratulations! Enjoy the peace of mind that comes with our free second-year limited warranty coverage. Taking advantage of this program is easy. Just follow the steps below and enter your IMEI number and such. All right. Device's back cover and battery are non-removable. Yeah, I get it. I haven't seen a warning label like that in a while. So let's get this plastic off. All right. So one thing that's a little annoying is that those stickers were actually attached to the phone, and they're not attached to that piece of plastic that was on the back, which would have been nice. So now you kind of have those sticker marks. But yeah, so you're going to have to clean it a little bit. We have our 3 cameras right here, which is pretty cool. Fingerprint sensor, not a button. So the interesting thing about that, like I said, LG's strategy has been a little confusing over the last few years. And we'll start booting this up. You can see there's a notch there, and 2 cameras. So the V35 had a button. Out of the phones that I showed you, the V30 has a button on the back. The V20 has a button on the back. The G7 did not. And I asked them about that because they just made this a fingerprint reader that you can't press, and then they added the power button over here where it used to be just all one button. So I'm not sure why they made this change, but if you recall, the V35 was a very strange phone because the G7 had just come out, and it wasn't available on AT&T. And then they came out with this AT&T exclusive called the V35, had a Snapdragon 845 processor, and it kind of just traded off some features that the G7 had. It didn't have a notch. Instead of the super bright LCD, that they used an OLED display. And it still had that button on the back, and they kind of said that this is the hallmark features of the V series, and we're going to do these features on the G series, we're going to do these features on the V series, and then they did the V40 where you know, it ditches that button on the back. It has a notch. All right, and the display looks nice. It is OLED. So here, setting it up, new second screen, and that's where I really put it together that the V10 was the first phone that had a notch, because that was called the second screen. And so I don't understand why they don't just kind of go back to that corner notch. It seems like a better idea, but we're going to keep the notch for now. You see, it's not a really intrusive notch like the Google Pixel 3 XL, which is terrible. It's not a really wide notch like the iPhone. Okay, insert SIM card. All right, so pretty much everything should be set up, but you have a choice between home and app drawer. They seem to really want to get rid of the app drawer pretty much everywhere. So you don't want to do this. See, there's never an option for just don't do it anymore. This is actually the wallpaper from the Red Hydrogen 1 that would have been centered, but it looks really good because it's OLED. So one of the things about OLED, because there are some trade-offs here between the G7. So what's really cool is that you can't really see where the display ends and the bezels begin. And I mean, you can kind of see it, but with OLED, pixels can be turned off. And that means you get true black in the background because these pixels are turned off. With an LCD, it's entirely backlit. And that's why if your TV is showing you something that's all black, you can still tell that it's on, because it's a backlight, and rendering colors on top of that true black tends to be more vibrant, whereas with a backlight it might be a little more washed out. And like, of course, you know, there are really good LCDs. Apple uses really good LCDs in the iPhone XR, and they're really crappy OLED panels. So, you know, there's pros and cons. So the con to this is that LG is not including the super bright display. What it has on the G7 is you can boost the brightness, and you can see the difference here. And yeah, I mean, that's fine. What this is really for is if you're in bright sunlight and you can't see the screen, which I've had a lot of problems like that with OLED, with LG phones. You could just boost the brightness like that. I didn't care for the feature much because you couldn't kind of get it to stay on. It kind of tried to revert to auto brightness a lot. But anyway, I prefer OLED. I think this is beautiful. And nice bezel-less, so it's going to look beautiful. You can watch some movies on here, and it's going to look nice. It's going to look nice. It's going to sound nice too. And of course, we have the headphone jack, which is on the bottom here. And what's cool about the headphone jacks that LG uses is that it has the 32-bit hi-fi quad DAC. DAC is digital to analog converter. So the point is that you plug in headphones into this phone, and it's going to sound awesome. And you should actually be able to turn that off or on up here. Right, you want to have it on pretty much always. When they first did it, I think it was in the V20, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was off by default, which was just weird. But yeah, so anyway, triple cameras, and that's pretty cool. I've kind of been calling for this. I've been wanting this for a long time because Apple introduced their first dual camera phone with the iPhone 7 Plus, and it had that 2x zoom. And I'm going to put this right here, and I'm going to show you some examples. And the 2x zoom was really cool because you could zoom without losing quality. And the way that digital zoom works is you just lose quality. This camera, it can see the lens. It can see a certain amount of space, all right? And it's on a certain angle, and all it can see is what it can see. And so if you have 12 megapixels, it has 12 megapixels that see that, 12 million dots that form that image. And once you start to... If you zoom in 2x, you're only getting 6 megapixels. Zoom in another 2x, you get 3 megapixels. And quality just degrades, and that's how digital zoom works. So when you have a separate lens... Now, don't put camera on the home screen, seriously? When you have a separate lens, you don't lose that quality. Now, I mean, you get that by a smaller aperture, smaller sensor size, and you lose low light performance. But the good news is that you don't lose that quality. LG was the first to use a wide-angle lens, which we could see. And so I always thought to myself, like, why do I have to choose between a phone that offers me a wide-angle lens and a phone that offers me a 2x lens? Why can't I just have all three? So that's what LG is giving us. So here's our 2x right there, regular, and wide-angle. So here's another thing that's pretty cool. triple shot. And this is probably my favorite feature. It gives you all three at once. Another feature that I've been calling for from smartphone manufacturers. So I'm just going to take this picture right there, and it takes the three pictures. It doesn't take them exactly all at once, but it does take all three pictures. And if this ever saves, right, we can just pull this up right here. More pop-ups, which are really annoying. Yeah, so here are my three pictures. Okay? And it's great. Again, I've been calling for this. It's like, and Huawei was one of them, because Huawei had the monochrome and the RGB lens, and the monochrome lens was actually really good, and it looked a lot better than even if you just took an RGB photo and converted it to black and white. So I would take a lot of pictures with the monochrome lens, and I'd say, look, why can't I just take one picture that uses both? Like, obviously, both lenses are there for a reason. Why don't you let me use them both at the same time? Okay, so going back to the camera, actually, because camera is like the big focus here. We're going to have portrait mode with the front camera. Can I turn it off? Okay. The AI camera, I'm hoping that performance is a little better. I did not really like it on the G7. Triple shot is probably the thing I'm most excited about. But the AI camera, the idea behind that is that it's going to tell you what it's looking at. And I don't really have anything around that I could use. But so Huawei did this first, again, with because it has a dedicated neural processing unit in the Kirin 9770 processor. So with the Mate 10, what they did is, so it will actually see what it's looking at and adjust accordingly. So if you take a picture of your dog, take a picture of food, it's going to say, this is food, and it's going to adjust. It's going to adjust the settings for that. I thought it was a little clunky on the G7, and I hope it improved, because what worries me a little bit is that the Snapdragon 845 does not have that dedicated component for doing that. So I think it's always going to be a little bit slower. Qualcomm's Snapdragon 855 next year should have that dedicated component. So the landscape is about to get really cool in that area. Okay, we have that night mode, which went away. And again, that's part of that AI camera where it's going to suggest things. All right, so you turn it on, and that's supposed to boost the low light. And it works. That actually works really well. Let's check out video settings. So yeah, we do have 4K 60 frames per second video capture, which is awesome because it's actually a pretty rare feature, despite the fact that the Snapdragon 845 actually supports it. And what's interesting is that the G7 actually didn't support the feature, so it's cool that it's actually showing up here. Hopefully it gets it in the software update, because the Snapdragon 835 did not support 4K 60 frames per second video capture, and there was a rumor that the Galaxy Note 8 would for a while, which was ridiculous because the chipset didn't support it. Apple was the first to do it in the iPhone 8, 8 Plus, and iPhone 10, and then Samsung did it with the S9, because it had the Snapdragon 845, and then we're starting to see other companies do it as well. HTC did it with the U12 Plus. I think Sony did it. But we're still seeing phones come out that don't have the feature, and that's disappointing to me. I prefer to record at 60 frames per second, and I've been doing 1080p 60 frames per second for a while. I don't like having to choose between the high resolution and the high frame rate. So I'm excited to not have to do that anymore. But really, the main features that you're getting here are the camera, and that's not new for the V series. The V series has always been very camera-centric. So, yeah, we're going to have a lot more on that. And they also have a, they're not calling it Cinemagraph, but it is Cinemagraph. It's actually called CineShot, right? And what that does, I don't know, maybe you've seen it before, especially if you watch my videos. It's called Cinemagraph on Motorola and Lumia phones, so this is a perfect example. And if you check out my review of, I think, the Moto Z3 Play, you've seen a few of these, where what you do is it records a video for like a couple seconds, and then you select an area to keep moving. So this person is moving, but that's just a still image, and then this part is kept moving. Now, we've seen stuff like this happen before, And it's never been very good. And the reason for that is because once you get past maybe like a half a second, and see how it works is you just draw on it and say, this is the part that I want to move, and that part moves. And what you end up happening is a destabilized video where it just looks off. So LG has done a lot better job of stabilization. I'm actually pretty excited to try this out. So yeah, that's about all I got for now. The big things, the big features of the camera are the triple shot, or the triple lens camera in general, but also the triple shot and the portrait mode with the front camera, and then CineShot. So I'm going to play with all of those. I hope CineShot is good as I remember it from the demo at the event. Portrait mode on the front camera, that's becoming a pretty standard feature, although it should be a little better since there are two front cameras. But really, it's a triple lens camera. That's what it's all about. Huawei's got a phone out with a triple lens camera now as well, although it doesn't have that triple shot feature, which I love. Anyway, guys, that's it. I'm going to have a review for you in a few weeks. I'm Rich from NeoWin. Have a great night.